Can you see these okay? It's very precarious to set up books on your bed. Hi guys, and welcome to my very first book discussion. Today I'm sitting here to review The Blood of Olympus, which is the final book in the Heroes of Olympus series by Riordan. The last time we'll ever hear from our dear old Percy Jackson. I would take it down and show you, but it was a lot of work to get that to balance on my mattress. I have so many feelings about this book. So I guess I would start off by saying I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. A lot of people had some really mixed reviews about it, or just didn't like it, or didn't feel like it lived up to what it should have, but I thoroughly really enjoyed it, and I didn't think once while reading it that I was missing things. Looking back on it and listening to other people's discussions, I can see where they're coming from, and I can agree on certain aspects, but overall, this book was a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was in Rick Riordan fashion, beautifully written. It was sarcastic, it was humorous, it was witty, and that is why we all love Rick Riordan, right? So if you haven't read these 10 books up here, you shouldn't be watching this. You should just go, because I don't want you to ruin it, because this is one of my favorite series of all time. Then come back and talk to me when you're all done, because I want to discuss this book. So let's start off with the fact that we didn't hear from Percy or Annabeth in this book. A lot of people were super upset that we didn't have point of views from Percy and Annabeth. I didn't really care. It didn't bother me. I guess a lot of people were like flipping through the chapters, reading it as they went along and being like, where's my Percy chapter? Where's my Annabeth chapter? If you look on the inside of the dust jacket, it lists the characters that are going to be in the book, the point of views you're going to hear from. So I knew going into it that I wasn't going to have Percy or Annabeth. So I wasn't sad that I didn't get it, because I knew I wasn't going to. This isn't Percy and Annabeth's series. They already had a 5-book series where they were the main protagonists. They were the narrator. Although they are part of the 7 demigods, there are 4 others that are also part of it, an integral part of the story. And you could argue, why didn't we hear from Frank or Hazel? I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that. I just feel like the anger and the the uproar that not having a Percy or Annabeth chapter created was unnecessary, because I didn't feel like I was lacking from the story, like the story was lacking because I didn't hear from them. I still got the sarcasm and the wit and the humor and the jokes and the snarkiness that Rick Riordan is famous for through other characters, mainly Leo, because Leo has a similar sense of humor to Percy. So I didn't really feel like I was missing that. Son of Neptune was Percy's book. Like, that was his adventure, that was his book. Mark of Athena, that was Annabeth's story. That was her quest. And then House of Hades, half of the crew was on the Argo 2 trying to open or close the doors of death from our side, while Percy and Annabeth were in Tartarus trying to close the doors from that side. So you got every other chapter was from their point of view. So I felt like I had a sufficient amount of Percy and Annabeth to sustain me. With that being said, we do hear from Nico and Raina, who are new. They're not part of the 7, so we only hear from Leo, Piper, and Jason, who are this part of the 7. But then we hear from Leo and Raina, who are on their own quest. I think I could have done with just one of their perspectives, but wasn't bothered by their point of views at all while I was reading the story. I loved that we got to finally learn more about Nico. He's been a character in these books since the original Percy Jackson books, and you just don't know much about him, and I was so happy to finally learn something about him and learn about his struggles and his point of view, and finally kind of get to know him after I've been reading about him for so freaking long. I was so happy to finally get to know him. And then Raina, I liked her. Before she was just this side character that was a praetor at Camp Jupiter, but now she had this integral part of the story. Her and Nico had to deliver the Athena Parthenos to Camp Half-Blood together to unite the 2 camps and the 2 facets of the gods. I really liked her story. I liked that she kind of had a darker past, that, with her dad and her family and her sister, and she was just kind of a loner because of her past, and then Nico was kind of a loner as well, and I was so happy that they, that bond was created, that they became such good friends. I just could understand each other more than I think the other characters would have been able to understand them. And I loved that friendship. I thought it was so well done, and I thought that they were such good matches. I didn't mind reading from their perspectives. Nico was just he just developed so much as a character throughout these series, and he's only 14 years old, and he's from the past. He was stuck in the Lotus Hotel with the Lotus Eaters for decades, and then his sister dies, and then he's trapped in Tartarus, and then he's trapped in an urn by giants. He's kidnapped by giants and fed pomegranate seeds. So it was so cool to finally hear what he's all about. So I really liked that. I was content with not having Percy and Annabeth because I had already read so much about them from their perspective, and I knew what they weren't going to have point of views in this book, so I wasn't missing it. I don't understand this intense hatred for Jason. I've never been bothered by him. I get that he kind of falls flat sometimes as a hero. He kind of fails sometimes and doesn't really live up to this I'm a son of Zeus expectation that people have for him, but I'm not against him. I don't hate him. So I wasn't bothered by his chapters either. So since we were just talking about how, Nico's an integral part of this book, let's talk about how freaky powerful he became. Since when can he influence people's dreams and communicate during dreams? Since when is that power of a Hades child? Where did that come from? And then he got so enraged by that kid who was threatening Reyna to arrest her and take her back to Camp Jupiter to Octavian, and he was just so filled with rage, basically melted this guy into a ghost. I don't even remember exactly what happened, but this guy was reduced to nothing but a ghost. Nico totally killed this guy. I mean, that was freaky powerful. And he didn't even realize he was doing it, so poor Bryce. That's a sucky way to die, just turn to a ghost. And then he can shadow travel. By the way, didn't realize that shadow traveling was so inaccurate. Why were they landing in the sky? There aren't shadows in the sky. I was picturing you had to go into a shadow, whether it be one from a tree or a house or a dark space, and then you would emerge in another shadow. There aren't shadows in the sky, so why are they falling 30 feet from the air? More often than not, Nico, Reyna, Hedge, and this 30 foot tall statue are falling from the sky. And they need Jason to save them with his wind powers. So I loved how powerful he became. I thought that was so cool. He can raise dead armies, he can shadow travel. Loved how when he was shadow traveling and he was starting to drain and disappear into a shadow, that Reyna lent him her strength and allowed him to make the rest of their jumps home. I thought that was really a nice moment that she was literally his strength. That was cool. I liked that. And at the end, when Nico decides to stay at Camp Half-Blood and he finally feels like he has a place that he belongs, I was so happy for him. I was so happy that he decided to stay in Camp Half-Blood and live in the Hades cabin and accept that his father is Hades and accept that he's a Greek demigod and accept that people want to be his friend. I loved that because he's felt so alone, and he's just he has alienated these people from him for so long. When he went up to Percy, because at the end they kind of allude to the fact that Nico also is going to be with his boy Will from the Apollo cabin. It's kind of a potential romance that might be happening in the future. I loved how he went up to Percy and he was just by the way, man, I used to have a crush on you. That's why I was so mean to you. And Percy was just what? Wait, what? And he was not getting it. Percy just is not getting it. It's just not clicking in his head. I thought that was so funny. I was watching all of those Blood of Olympus unboxings that Hyperion sent out over the summer to booktubers, and they kind of talked in a lot of those unboxings that 2 demigods that we know by name are going to die in this last book. And I was like so convinced that it was going to be 2 of the 7. I felt like, because so much of the series had been about like Frank and his firewood, and Hazel being raised from the dead, and Nico being from a different time. I thought that like one of those was people were gonna die. Like Hazel was gonna have to go back to the underworld because she doesn't belong. You know, she got off the hook because Nico brought her back. I don't know, I just thought one of them was gonna be the ones that died, and it wasn't. It was Leo. I was kind of shocked. They do spend a lot of this book going on this quest for the physician's cure. Basically, if someone dies and you either inject it or you give it to them by mouth, they can come back to life. But I didn't think it was going to be Leo until all of the like referencing to sacrifice and honor that he was talking to the Romans about, Hazel and Frank. Then I was like, maybe it is going to be Leo, but who's going to be the other one? I totally thought it was going to be 2 of the 7, plus maybe Raina or Nico. But no, it was Octavian. Not sad. Not sad about him dying at all. He sucked. But like I said, when Nico kept referencing to sacrifice that needed to be made and talking about honor, and then he kept referencing the line of the prophecy that said something like, to storm or fire, the world will fall. Jason being storm, Leo being fire. And he wasn't going to let his best friend die. So I kind of was getting the feeling that it was going to be Leo. But I was kind of a bad reader, and I flipped to the last chapter and I saw that it was Leo's chapter. So when he actually died, I was like, I don't know, because he has another chapter. So is he like dead talking to me or what? With Octavian, he kept saying he was going to be the savior of Rome, and he was going to be the one to bring honor and to save the Roman demigods, and you know, that was what he was told by Apollo, and this is what he saw in his fates and all this other stuff. And in a way, he kind of was, because had he not basically sacrificed himself in a very selfish way, but had he not launched himself in that catapult and intercepted Festus and Leo and all the like flaming imperial bronze stuff, Leo might not have been able to defeat Gaia. Maybe his fire alone wouldn't have killed her. He needed all that extra from Octavian. So Octavian kind of became the savior in a very selfish way. So he did fulfill his prophecy. Probably not in the way he expected he was going to fulfill it, though. Oh, and I loved the part where the gods are fighting the giants with their demigod children, and all the gods are being really helpful and like fighting alongside their kids. And let's just, you know, a lot of these demigods haven't met their parents yet on the godly side, so that was super cool. And then we have Aphrodite, who's like floating around on a cloud, throwing rose petals in this goddess in this giant's face and encouraging Piper, being like, that was lovely, dear, you should do that again. Oh, that was fantastic. Zeus and Jason are smiting people with bolts of lightning, and Percy and Poseidon are taking people out with waves, and she's throwing rose petals, which I mean, I guess is her way of being helpful. Also, I loved the part when they went to see the doctor, god of medicine, and he had all of those abbreviations on his door, and they were like doctor abbreviations, but then every once in a while it was like LOL, OMG, like abbreviations that we use in like texting and online. The king of abbreviations as well. And the guard is that metal statue who Leo set to idiot mode. That was so funny because she's, you know, throwing acid on her face and being like, I will kill you, hello, you shall die, hello, running into walls but still threatening to kill these people. And then before that, when she's yelling, you don't have insurance? What do you mean there's no insurance? And the other part when they're talking about astrology, and Percy goes, oh, really? I'm a Leo. And Leo's like, no, I'm a Leo. You're a Percy. A lot of people really liked the whole Nike goddess situation. How do we lure her out? How do we find her? I don't see this goddess just rampaging over the city and causing hysteria. And they're like, well, maybe we should just start advertising Adidas. And then Leo's like, well, then she'll yell, you will die. And then all of a sudden they hear, you will die. We shall have a fight to the death. And they're all like, or we could just not. Like, we could not fight our friends. That would be real cool. And she's like, no, you want to earn this golden laurel crown. It's like, oh, yes, I'm going to kill all my friends to wear a golden leaf on my head. That's a real sweet prize. Really winning me over, Nike, with that crown of leaves. And I love the way that he described how her two sides were conflicting, like a doorstop that you've sprung, and I could just see, like I could see that so clearly. That was so nicely described. Rick Riordan always has such great descriptions and imagery like that. Let's talk about the ending. I felt like it was too easy to kill Gaia. She's this all-powerful, consuming goddess of the earth, and all you had to do was take her into the sky. Like, that makes sense to take her off the place where she's the most strong, and then the most powerful goddess in the world, Jason could contain in a cloud, so she couldn't disperse herself. And then Piper just had to use her charm speak to lull her back to sleep, and then they blasted her with fire. That just seemed way, way too easy. And then she just was gone. Just like that. Just gone. She died in like 3 paragraphs. It was so easy. She's been threatening you for 5 books. Some of you since you were children, and threatening to wake and wreak havoc and kill off basically every living creature on the earth. And you can kill her that easily? Like, I felt like that was sort of anticlimactic. But then there was this line. An immortal could never die, but now Gaia would be like her husband Uranus. The earth would continue to function as normal, just as the sky did, but Gaia was now so dispersed and powerless that she could never again form a consciousness. At least that was the hope. Rick Riordan doesn't say things like that for nothing. I don't think she's actually dead. That was too easy. It was too easy to kill her. A lot of people complain about the battle being too short and not being dramatic enough. I think that's why. I think because she dispersed herself and she's not actually dead. I think that there will be another series about these characters. Maybe not necessarily Percy and Annabeth. I kind of feel like their story might be done. What about the other 4? Frank, Hazel, Piper, Jason, Lorena, Nico. Why can't they have another story? So that's why I think it ended the way it did. Because Rick Riordan doesn't say anything like that for nothing. People were making a really good point about the whole, like, Leo thing. How did he get back to Ogygia if it's never supposed to be found twice? What if no living person could get back more than once? So Festus was programmed to inject Leo with the cure after he was able to find Ogygia again? Possibly? Maybe? Another theory is that Leo was actually dead and he was having like a dream or a vision or something where he got his ultimate peace of reaching Calypso again. Because how was she able to leave? Like, I know that the gods said that they would let her go, but she just was able to leave. She just like packed her bags and left the island on Festus. I'm curious to see if he is actually dead or if he did take the cure and was able to come back and actually save Calypso. I would prefer him to have actually been able to save Calypso, but I don't know. So overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. I did feel like the last battle was a little rushed. I would have liked to see more of the battle with the gods and the demigods, because I think that's really cool. And I think that Gaia should have been harder to defeat, but like I said, don't think she's actually dead. I mean, other than that, I wasn't really bothered by the fact that we didn't have a Percy or Annabeth POV. So, in my opinion, I was satisfied with the way that this series concluded. Because, like I said, I think it's not actually concluded. Maybe this 5-book series is, but I don't think this world is yet. We have Magnus Chase, who is totally going to be Annabeth's cousin that her dad has a rivalry with. I think that they might make an appearance in or at least be alluded to in some way on the new Magnus Chase series. And the other 4, plus Nico and Reina, I think we might hear more about in another series, which would be totally okay with me. I'm cool with that. So thank you so much for joining me for my very first book discussion. If you have any thoughts of your own, or if you agree with anything I said or disagree with anything I said, let me know in the comments down below. We can discuss about this and theorize about what might come in future series. If you have any requests for any future book talks or something you would like to see in the future, just let me know in the comments below and I can definitely do that for you. I want to theorize about this book and this possibility of Gaia not being dead. Did you think about that? So until next time, thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye! What are these called? Talking about this going on this quest for this vicious. I feel like that was such a jumble of thoughts. I like how they're just so nicely displayed on my bed because I don't have a table or a bookshelf to display them on. My precious. Anybody else think that that Gaia's not really dead? Anyone else get that? Anybody else think about that?